What's good? Welcome back to another tutorial video, guys. In today's tutorial, I'm going to be teaching you guys how to make a working gun. And before we get started, I have one warning. This is not made for PvP systems. This is just to troll your friends with. Well, I mean, I guess you could use it for PvP games if you want, but it's not the best option. But anyways, let's get straight into the tutorial. Now, the first thing we're going to do is get our gun model. I have one pre-saved, so I'm just going to use that. But you guys can make yours from scratch or find one in the invention store. Now, once you get your gun, you're going to want to get a trigger handle. So you're going to go in your maker pen, search up trigger handle, and it should look like this. Then you're going to grab your trigger handle and try to align it with the handle of your gun. I'm going to try to align it the best I can, just like that. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is configure my trigger handle. And you can see it says play sound effect on pressed. What this means is that once you click trigger, it'll play a little sound effect. But in my opinion, it sounds bad, so I'm going to turn that off. And then there's component visibility, and it says visible only when components are visible, which means if you don't have your maker pen equipped, you can still see it, and you don't want this appearing, you just want to see the gun. So we're going to turn that on. This next part is just for organization purposes. You see trigger handles are physical, so they'll drop if you don't have it selected. So I'm going to connect this to an animation gizmo. And before I turn on the animation gizmo, you can see that it just drops and it's no longer on the gun. You're going to want to go to configure, click this little red circle, and you're going to click the plus so that it's set to 1. Now you can see your gun is back. Now we're going to be getting something called a clamp. I'm going to set it right next to my gun. You don't have to, but I'm going to scale it down a little bit so it's not so big. Now make sure you're on your connect tool, and you're going to connect the bottom of the clamp to the trigger handle, not the gun itself. Just like this. You can see I have the trigger handle selected and I connected it like that. Now you can see this little gold pin at the top. We're going to connect that to the actual gun model itself. So you should have 2 lines, one going to the trigger handle, one going to the gun model. Next, I'm going to configure the trigger handle circuit board. And again, for organizational purposes, we're going to go to attachment mode, click this drop down menu, and click detached. So now when you pick up your gun, you don't have the circuit board following it, and it looks really bad, and it's hard to find your circuits when they're all over the place. Now you also have a limited number of circuits you can use. So you can see in this top right, you have a chip amount, and the maximum is 7,500. And I'm using 315 circuits in this room right now. So if you're close to reaching that max limit, you can configure your trigger handle circuit board, scroll down to the port groups, and I'm going to click the primary action released, delete that, primary action held, delete that, on release, delete that, and data, delete that. Now my circuit board should look like this. It says primary action pressed and on pickup. However, just from deleting those ports, it doesn't mean the actual circuits inside of it were deleted. So you can see the number of circuits I have did not change or go down. What I'm going to do is I'm going to click edit, click on my trigger handle circuit board, and you can see all these circuits right here. Now I can delete all the circuits you're not using. So this one, this one, this one, this one, this one, this one, and this one. And then you can also delete this self. And I'm going to click done. Now you can see we saved a couple of circuits from doing that. Now I'm going to drag my circuit board over here. And the next thing we're going to get is a projectile launcher. Should look something like this. And what we're going to do is that we're going to place that in front of our gun. And now you're going to try as best as you can to align it. So you want the tip of your gun to be in the center of the projectile launcher. And it should look something like this. Now we're going to click connect. And then we're also going to connect the projectile launcher to the gold tip of your clamp. Then we're going to configure the projectile launcher circuit board, put it on detached. And the thing we're looking for is fired forward. And all these other circuits we do not need for this, so we're going to delete those. Now my projectile launcher just has fire forward. And of course, there are circuits still inside of it, so we're going to click edit, click on the circuit board, and delete all the circuits that are not being used. Just like that, then you can hit done. Now I'm also going to drag this over to my trigger handle. Now the next thing we're going to get is a player definition board. Should be right here. I'm going to go ahead and place this over here. Now I'm going to click edit and click on the player definition board so that I'm inside of the circuit. And player definition boards give you access to a whole lot of new options on event receivers. So I'm going to go and place a event receiver right here. Then I'm going to configure it, click this drop down menu, and scroll down until you see projectile hit player new. When you're watching this video, this might not be new anymore. So if you don't see new, then don't worry. It'll probably still be named projectile hit player. So you can go ahead and click this. Now your event receiver should have a whole lot of options, but the 2 main things we're focused on is the collision data. I'm going to get a event definition and configure it, and I'm going to rename it to player hit, and then make sure you click submit, otherwise it won't save. I'm going to scroll down till you see add new property. I'm just going to name it player. And then on the type, you're going to click this drop down menu and scroll down until you see player and then click add property. The next thing you're going to want to get is a event sender, and you're going to configure that and set the event to the event definition that you just made. So mine is called player hit, so I'm going to click player hit. And your event sender should look something like this. Now, next thing we're getting is a circuit called collision data get player. And we're going to bring it around right here. Move this back just a little bit. Now you're going to connect it like this. The collision data is going to the target, and the output player is going to the input of the event sender. And then the execution on your event receiver will be connected to your event sender. Now you can click done, so you're no longer in your circuit board. And don't worry, the circuits you just made are not gone. If you click edit, go back into your player definition board, they're still here. Now we're gonna get another event receiver. And let's pause for a second because I just realized I made a mistake. You see, we made our event definition inside of our player definition board. However, the event definition has to be outside of the player definition board. And to be honest, I don't feel like remaking this event definition. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna hit select my event definition. And then you can see on your MicroPen menu, you have select tools function. You're gonna go ahead and open that, and you're gonna click copy. And then I'm gonna click done. And now that we're outside of this player definition board, I'm going to click paste recent. And then you can see I now have a event definition, and I'm going to place it down. And now I have my event definition outside of the player definition board. And I can go back in here and delete this one. Make sure to just configure this event receiver and set it back to player hit and reconnect it just like so. I'm going to move my event definition to here. Now I'm going to configure my event receiver, click the drop down, and then I'm going to search player hit. And it should be right here, and I'm going to go ahead and click that. Now I'm going to move this out of the way and save it for later. I'm going to bring my projectile launcher next to my trigger handle. The primary action press is going to connect to the fire forward on your projectile launcher, and this next step is optional. However, if you want a sound effect for whenever your gun is shot, then you can go ahead and go to your search menu. You can search up play audio at position. This is what we're looking for right here. Place it down over here. So when this fires forward, we're going to play the audio. And if you don't have a soundboard, you can go to the inventions page, and there's a bunch of free gun sound effects that you can choose from. So once you have that sound effect, you can place it over here, and you can connect that to the audio of your play audio at position. And now we need to give this a position to play the audio at. So I'm going to search up get position, click on here, place it down over here. Now I'm going to connect the position of my play audio at position to the output of my get position. And the target of my get position is going to be my trigger handle. So whenever we click our trigger handle, it will fire a projectile and play an audio at the trigger handle. So if we go to our gun, you can see, bro, Rec Room, fix your game. How is it stuck to my hand like this? Okay, I just had to reload my game because there was a bug with Rec Room where the trigger handle just broke. I reloaded the room and we're good now. So if that bug happens to you, just save your game and rejoin. But now as you can see, I'm going to pick up my gun and I'm going to click trigger. You can see it shoots out a laser beam. And this is not cool looking. So what you're going to do, you're going to go configure your projectile launcher. And you're going to scroll down until you see sound enabled. And we're going to turn that off. And we're going to scroll down until you see the projectile type. And it's currently set to laser. In my opinion, the best type is the cork. And now I'm going to pick my gun back up. And wow, that is a lot better. And there's a whole bunch of things you can do with this. You can see if you put this count up and up your spread a little bit, you can see that it shoots more than one. So if you're making a shotgun, you can do this. And the higher you set your spread, the more it'll spread out. But I'm going to set my spread to 0, and I'm going to keep my count to 1. Then of course, if you come up here, you can see projectile gravity enabled, and that pretty much gives the bullet gravity. So if I turn this on, you can see when I shoot it, the bullet kind of curves down. However, if you just want it to shoot it forward and stay going forward, you can keep this off. The projectile lifetime is how long the bullet is gonna go on for before it disappears. So I would recommend keeping it to the max, which is 4. And the projectile speed makes the bullet go faster. So if I bring this up to 1,000 and I shoot it, you can barely see it because it goes so fast. So I'm gonna keep mine to 75. But you can see our gun is now fully working. However, you can see if I shoot it at a player, it's not killing them. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to come back to this event receiver that we have up here. And you can see in our player definition board, the thing that we made detects the player that was hit by a bullet. And this collision data keeps track of what it collided with. So by using a collision data get player, it gets the player that collided with the bullet. And then we sent it through a event sender so that we can get it outside of our player definition board. So now that we're able to detect which player got hit, there are 2 different ways to kill a player. The first type is using a set transform, and the second thing you can use is a respawn. Now, these do the exact same thing, but they look a little different. I'll be showing you how to set up both of them, but if you have a preference, then you can choose one or the other. My preference is to set transform, and so I'm going to show you how to set up this one before I show you how to set up the respawn. You're going to want to get a get position and a get rotation. So the position on your set transform is going to be connected to the position on your get position, and the rotation on your set transform will connect to the output of your get rotation. The target of your set transform is going to be connected to the player on your event receiver, and so are the executions. Now, we need a target for this get position and get rotation, and that target will be where the player gets teleported to after they get shot. I typically use a vector component, but you can use invisible collisions or trigger volumes to also use this. I'm going to edit my circuit board, make sure it's on detached, scroll down, and I'm going to click delete all board content because all I need is this gold output right here. And I'm going to bring that down right here, and both of these targets are going to be connected to the vector component. Now, if you test this right now, you'll find out that it doesn't work, and that's because your player definition board isn't active. So you're going to configure your player definition board, and you can see right here it says active, and you're going to turn that on. So now everything inside of this player definition board will start working. And if the player definition board is working, then our event receiver is working. So this is how you set up the set transform. Now, if you want to use the respawn instead, you'll pretty much connect it just like the set transform, because the respawn has these 4 ports, just like the set transformation does. The respawn just gives you a couple more ports that you can adjust. But we're not gonna worry about these right now. We're just gonna connect it like so. Target going to the vector component. Pretty much connecting it the exact same way. Now you can see on your respawn it says a spawn radius. Pretty much what this means is that instead of directly teleporting on top of your vector component, you can use the spawn radius to make players spawn around it, and it's random every single time. And you can also clear the player's velocity. So if this is set to true, the player's velocity will be set to 0 whenever they get respawned. So if you want to use a respawn, go ahead. However, I'm going to stick to my set transform. Again, they both do the exact same thing. The respawn is just a little different. Now you can bring your vector components to anywhere you want. Just know that this is where the player will be teleported to whenever they get shot. So I'm going to bring it over here. You want to kind of keep it lower to the ground because players don't spawn inside of the vector component, they spawn on top of it. So now I'm going to grab my gun and I'm going to shoot this person just like this. And you can see when I shot the person, they were teleported to the vector component. And if you don't want your gun flying in the air like this, then you can just delete your animation gizmo. And now you can see my gun has physics. If you learned something from this tutorial, make sure to like and subscribe to support me. And if you want to see more tutorials like this, there's more on my YouTube channel. And if you're watching right now, comment the word duck so that I know you watched the whole thing, because I want to see who really watches my videos till the end, you know? And if you have other tutorials you want to see me make, go ahead and comment them down below. And I'll see you guys next time. Ugh.